the United Nigeria Group present the Atiku PDP Presidential Nomination Media Chat. Let's get Nigeria walking again.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to this Presidential Media Chat sponsored by the United Nigeria Group. This is an event that's put together for His Excellency, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, to address PDP delegates. All the questions that will be answered here tonight are questions that were pulled from PDP delegates across the country, and they want answers from His Excellency. So please sit back and let us hear what His Excellency is going to tell the delegates. I would like to call the DG of TONG, the United Nigeria Group, for a few words. Dr. Eminena Bright, where are you?
Your Excellency, the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Waziri Adamawa, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, good evening to you. Good evening to all the other highnesses that are present here, the gentlemen of the press, and all group leaders here present. We want to thank you for this event, for taking your time to come here today. The United Nigeria Group is a pro-unity group, as some of you may be aware of. And we all know the times that we are in. The elections are coming, especially the primaries. His Excellency, no doubt, is one of the forerunners of the People's Democratic Party. He's done a lot of things. He's turned around a lot of things. And the questions that are being asked really are general questions, but in a bid to contribute our part as a group, we went ahead to do a survey amongst the delegates in Nigeria to find out specifically what they want from a presidential aspirant, vis-a-vis His Excellency Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. This event is to provide a platform for His Excellency to provide answers to those questions. We do hope that you enjoy it, that at the end of this event, there won't be any doubts as it concerns the questions that will be posed. Once again, you're all welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for Dr. Bright. All right, so we have the media chat up and running. So it's going to have a great show and a great discussion this evening. But first and foremost, let us make welcome His Excellency, the former governor of Ogun State, Gbenga Daniel, Otumba Gbenga Daniel, who's Director General, Atiku Presidential Campaign Organization. And he'll be giving us a brief introduction of His Excellency, Atiku Abubakar.
The assignment is very simple. To introduce our guest tonight. Our guest tonight is somebody that we all know and we're very conversant with. But without that, you permit me to say that if you look at what we can describe as the golden years of the current political experiment since 1999, everybody agrees that between 1999 and 2007 probably is the best that we've had. And of course, you must know that the brain behind some of those works that happened at that time is no other person than our guest. Of course, quite a number of questions will come, and I hope some of these questions will come in that process. But today, it's my humble disposition to present to you the person I like to describe as the man of the moment. By the special grace of God, the incoming President of the Federal Republic. Somebody who has shown the way he has carried himself, that he's a true Nigerian in all ramifications. Somebody who has shown by his antecedents that the biggest challenges we have in our country, which has to do with jobs and jobs and jobs, is something that he's conversant with. And somebody who has shown that he understands this economy, which is also part of the challenges we have. Without much ado, I know you are hungry to ask your questions. It is my privilege to introduce to you and to present to you His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger and the Waziri of Adawa. Your Excellency, you are most welcome.
Thank you very much.
Round of applause for His Excellency, the former Governor of Ogun State, as well as Director General of Atiku Abubakar Presidential Campaign Organization. All right, my name is Aoro Obo. I'm a journalist with Silverbird TV. I've been doing this for over 10 years. And I'm going to moderate this event together with a bright bunch of journalists who are going to introduce themselves, and we'll be asking questions for the next 1 hour.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Salamatu Ibrahim, and I work with AIT.
Good evening, Your Excellency, and good evening, everyone. My name is Dixon Irebu. I anchor Nigeria Right Now.
Good evening, sir. My name is Niyo Odobody from The Punch.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ashafa Morone from Premium Times.
Good evening, Your Excellency. Good evening, everyone. I'm Hamza Idris, the Group Politics Editor of the Daily Trust newspaper.
Well, a round of applause for the journalists here, nevertheless. So we have a crack squad here, but it's a media chat, so we're going to be having very frank discussions with His Excellency here. Always love to have to eat the frog first in the morning. The most important question, which all the delegates here and supporters of His Excellency and aspirant rather, with the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar. It's a question everyone will ask you when you wake up in the morning, and you ask yourself every day when you go to bed. Why do you want to be president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? What do you tell the delegates when they ask you?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I want the job of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria because more than any other time since the return of democracy, I think we need a leadership that has the experience, that has the capacity, and that has the know-how to turn things around. And our most challenging issue as a country today is the issue of unemployment and creation of jobs, followed by resolution of our partnership, our federation, and then the unity of the country and security. I believe I am more suitable to confront this challenge because look at it. As a civil servant, I have worked for 20 years in the federal bureaucracy. As a politician, I served successfully for 8 years as the vice president. And in that position, I chaired the economic team of that administration and brought so many innovative changes in our administration that led to creation of jobs, thousands of jobs, a creation of wealth and prosperity and relative peace, and unity and stability. Again, if you go back to my private sector experience, I have been a farmer and still a farmer, and I'm still an industrialist and also a creator of so many jobs. I have created thousands of jobs. And I think if you put together all these experiences, that gives me advantage over some of my contemporaries. Not that they don't have something to put on the table. Each and every one of them has something to put on the table. But some can put more on the table than others. So I believe this country requires all the things that are enumerated. This is one of the, in fact, since the Civil War, I have not seen Nigeria in such a bad shape. Our unemployment rate is the highest. Over 12 million young men and women unemployed is the highest. Our growth is at its lowest ebb. When this administration took over, we were growing at the GDP between 6 to 7%. They took it over and crashed it completely. We went into recession. We are trying to come out of the recession at about 1.6, growth. consider the growth of our population, which is more than 3%. So any country that is economic growth is below, its population growth is in a danger. That is the danger that is facing our country today. So anybody who can come and lift up our economy to a level where our GDP growth will surpass, our population growth, I think is the leader we should, at this point in time, support and give him the opportunity to lead our country out of this crisis. And look at, the park. I think I have got more on the table to offer.
Your Excellency, you're not in this race alone. There are 13 other contenders for the presidential ticket of the PDP. Now, why should PDP delegates vote for you?
Well, this is very much a question that is similar to the first question. You see, as I said, currently, the country is doing very badly in terms of jobs, in terms of economic growth, in terms of prosperity, in terms of the unity of our country, in terms of even security. I believe I have the experience and the capacity to deal with these issues more than any one of them, because I have dealt with them before. I have dealt with the economic situation as the chairman of the economic team of our administration. I assembled the best economic team, and with that, we went to work, and everybody can testify what we have done, during those 8 years. We liberalized the economy. We promoted and encouraged the flow of foreign investment into the country. And we expanded the private sector participation in government and tried to limit government to what government is best suited to do, just a regulatory arm of government. If these policies we had started had been continued, today we would have been in a different actually situation, but they were not continued. As you know, some of our programs in privatization were discontinued for almost 6 years. No serious privatization took place. And also the foreign direct investment incentives that we started were not continued. So I believe we need somebody who can come and continue with these policies so that we can bring back our prosperity, create more jobs for our unemployed men and women who are currently in a very, very bad shape. So the most important thing is who is that person who can bring about, and offer that kind of leadership. And I think, I believe, not that I even think, I believe, I'm the right man for the job.
Okay, Your Excellency, the People's Democratic Party, of course, you have 13 of you aspiring for the same seat. Should you get the ticket, how will you rally other aspirants to support you for the good of the nation, Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. I have already been rallying around them because there is no single aspirant that I have not been to him to ask for his support and also working together. Fortunately, each and every one of them brings something, to the table, different from the other. And I believe it will not be a problem for me bringing them together, to participate with me in government and also in whatever capacity they feel they could support the government. Government is such a very big thing in Nigeria. Even though my dream is that by the time I leave office, government will become smaller. But as of today, government is a very big thing that can, take all these individuals. Each and every one of them can bring something, on the table. I have been talking to them and we have been interacting.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So we've dealt with a number of questions which have been directed to the delegates of the People's Democratic Party, many of them in the hall today together with the supporters of Atiku Abubakar. We're going to take a break. When we come back, a second round of questions will begin, and this time we'll be looking at the economy and jobs.
Thank you.
It's your first day in office as the new president of Nigeria. What do you do?
Big question.
Completely hypothetically speaking.
Well, first of all is...
Day one, what do you do?
Well, I have to set up the right cabinet to help me govern.
That's day one. Okay.
Yes.
Cabinet on day one. That alone would go down well, I think.
Welcome back to Presidential Video Chat. His Excellency, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, will be having questions directed at delegates of the People's Democratic Party. This time around, we're looking at jobs and the economy. Nee, we haven't heard his voice this evening. He has the floor.
Okay. Sir, in 2015, the external debt of Nigeria is 10 billion naira. In 2018, it has increased to 22 billion. You are talking of economy. In concrete terms, how will you manage these debts that have been caused by this administration, and how will you create jobs for over 15 million Nigerians that are unemployed?
Well, I think, you seem to have also forgotten something. When we came in 1999, a barrel of crude oil was less than $10, that was in the market. And we met less than 5 billion in our foreign reserves. And we also met debt, both local and foreign. With all that figures or low economic figures, we were still able to manage the economy to the extent that we paid all our foreign debt, and we came debt-free. It depends on the management of the economy. And basically what we did was to embark on economic reform policies. First of all, open up the country to foreign investment. It is extremely important. You open up the country to foreign investment and also give incentives to those investors. And of course, after doing that, management of the macroeconomic, policy itself is also very, very important. We were able to turn around the economy, pay our debts. I don't think it is an impossible task to do. I mean, if we are given the opportunity, and particularly if I'm given the opportunity, because I had done it before, or rather we have done it before. So I believe it is doable. Again, you know that we have lost a lot of foreign investment by the policies of this government to a point where we have slipped back into even recession now. So it depends. Now, I just want to give you an example. Look at the disagreement between the federal government and MTN. Now, in a business environment, you don't react the way the federal government reacted. You should negotiate and agree on repayment terms or payment terms, as the case may be. You don't invoke punitive measures to foreign investors because you scare them away. Now, look at the case of the other telephone company. They have been trying to sell it, Etisalat. Up till now, they cannot get a buyer to buy it. simply because, of the attitude of the government to foreign investment. So I believe it is doable. We can turn all this around and then put the country on the path of growth. It requires businessman-like approach. So it's doable.
The delegates would like to know your vision for development on each geographical zone.
Each of the
geopolitical zones. Now, actually, this goes again to restructuring of the polity. Unless you restructure the polity and you devolve more powers and resources to the political zones, you are not likely to see much. And if you concentrate all the powers in the hands of the federal government, which we have seen has not worked really, then you are going to stifle growth. You are going to stifle initiative. So I think the best way to get the geopolitical zones developed and prosper is to devolve more powers and resources to those geopolitical zones, whether as geopolitical zones or whether as states or whatever we may eventually agree, for those units to be called. But definitely, we need to review, our political structure to ensure, diversification of economic growth across the country.
Your Excellency, everyone knows that your showcase campaign point is restructuring. It's a kind of a follow-up to what my colleague asked. And then you can't do it alone. You need the National Assembly. And every Nigerian has paid huge price in the last 3 or 4 years because of the acrimony between the executive and the legislature. This is why. Within the legislature itself, it is deeply divided along regional and political lines. How do you intend to work with the National Assembly to actualize your dream of restructuring Nigeria?
Thank you very much. It requires political skill. I have done it before. During our administration, I was in charge actually of dealing with the National Assembly. And I don't think we encountered this kind of gridlock at all. We never did. And there were differences. There were differences of political parties. There were differences. All the differences you mentioned were there. And they will continue to be there because we are a multi-ethnic and multi-religious country. These differences will continue there. It requires you to get somebody who has the skill and the experience to manage these differences, and we move along. I will work perfectly well with the National Assembly to achieve those fundamental policies that I'm talking about: restructuring, economic growth, diversification, unity, security, name it.
Your Excellency, we're taking you further on the issue of restructuring, and you talked about your skills. What are these political skills that you bring to the table? Do you mind bringing some of them to the fore?
Well, it all depends. It's how you relate, with these members of the National Assembly. It's how you relate with them and how you sit down and negotiate with them. I have done that in our administration. I was the only one doing all that. Even when the administration was under threat or the presidency was under the threat of impeachment, I went, to negotiate, a deal out of the situation. So really these are our own, secret, ways how we deal with a diverse, group of politicians.
Does that also apply, sir? Being that you're 13 of you, there are 13 of you aspiring for this same position. This political skill, how come we've not been able to see that come to the fore right now? How come we're having 13 aspirants?
Okay. Let me give you an illustration. After the APC primaries, when I was in APC with the present administration, and I suggested, to the president, I said, look, Mr. President, this is the way you should go about. Call me, call XYZ, and sit down. We can give you advice. You may not have to take it, but just give us a sense of belonging. Not once. Not once. When President Obasanjo picked me as a running mate, after our convention in 1998 in Jos, and then we came and were trying to form a government, I made sure we reached out to every person who wanted to be a vice president. They are very key figures who wanted. We reached out to each and every one of them. If you cannot be in our government, can you nominate somebody who can be in our government? Some of them agreed, and they participated in the government, and some of them nominated representatives. Nothing of this sort took place here. So it requires political skill.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to take another break. I'm sure you all know this has been an intriguing and engaging conversation we've been having so far. We've just finished a round of questions having to deal with the jobs and economy, the last part having to do with restructuring. We'll come back. It was going to be a very, very interesting topic we're going to be looking at this time. Women and youths, please stay with us.
What are your biggest challenges in business in a place like Nigeria? Where is the greatest area of need, and is it being addressed? If not, how can it be addressed?
Job creation is number one. Today, if you want to fix the Nigerian economy, you have to come out with a policy of job creation. But then job creation requires quite a number of things. Like you said, infrastructure, for instance. If you are able to have a plan, that can launch infrastructural development across the country, building railway stations, building ports, building roads, you will create a number of millions of jobs. As of today, we have been losing jobs for the past 2 to 3 years. Not only that, but even the ones that are being employed are being poorly paid.
Welcome back to PDP Presidential Nomination Media Chat with His Excellency, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. We're asking very frank and interesting questions. Engaging his responses have also been. This next set of questions will deal with the youth and women, a very important segment of society which will determine how this next election will go. Even with the delegates, many of them represented here also too. Next year's election is very crucial because it's the first time we're going to have youths who will vote in this country who never saw the military jackboots and beret. These are people who we call the millennium generation, and I'm sure they will have many questions. One of the most important questions I'm sure they will ask you is, what do you have in store for them?
Oh, thank you very much. What I have in store for youths is jobs and education. Our educational development has witnessed serious setback in the sense that we are producing graduates who are not employable. I mean, graduates that do not fit, the economy. One very fundamental thing I will want to introduce is that we should have entrepreneurship as a fundamental issue in our syllabus, because I have seen it worked in my university. Whatever course you are doing, you must also take a course on entrepreneurship. Whatever course you are doing, whether you are doing engineering, whether you are whatever. So that when you produce a graduate, he does not have to look for a job. He can create jobs for himself and for others. That's why if you look at the graduates from my university, they are the biggest job creators today, in the sense that they, as soon as they come out, they create 5, 10 jobs. So we have to look at our educational curriculum. And then, of course, after doing that, how do we now deal with those currently unemployed? Those currently unemployed, we have to open up the economy, diversify it, bring incentives so that jobs can be created for them. And the kind of massive projects that can employ this number of 12 million is no joke. You really have to bring in a lot of foreign investment into the country, into infrastructure, into railway, into post development, into quite a number of sectors in the economy, so that they can create those, opening those jobs that will absorb all these graduates. And then, of course, you also look at this sector, all right, how do you train some of them, you know, to be self-employed? How do you expect, I see, you know, them giving some people 10,000. How do you give somebody 10,000 to go and set up a business? I have one of the most successful microfinance banks in the country today. I'm working with people from Bangladesh. You know, Bangladesh have the best microfinance system in the world. I'm working with some of them who are running this bank today. And we have moved out 45,000 families out of poverty. Yes. And what is the best way to move a family out of poverty? Is to empower the woman. Because, you know, I directed the bank, I say 80% of your loan should go to women. And they have been implementing that policy. And as a result, today, we have one of the most successful microfinance banks, because women repay and they get more and they look after their families. You see, because I am a product of woman. Because I lost my father barely, I never knew him well. And my mother was doing all kinds of petty things to sell from the house to look after me until I became what I am. So honestly, the best policy to move people or families out of poverty is to empower women. If you do that, you can see how fast you are going to get people out of poverty, particularly now that Nigeria has been designated the capital of poverty in the world. We need really to engage our women productively.
Well, that brings me to the next question, and thank you. You spoke so glowingly about women. Now, one issue that is bothering the minds of a lot of Nigerians, especially those who reside in the Northeast, is the fact that perhaps there are youths who want to engage in setting entrepreneurial businesses, but do not have the opportunities to do that as a result of the insecurity in the Northeast. The problems in the Northeast are deep-rooted in poverty and huge levels of youth restiveness. Now, what will you do about the general issue of insecurity in the Northeast, such that the woman in the Northeast can take advantage of the business opportunities in that region to thrive?
The general security situation in the Northeast is very, very regrettable. Honestly, I cannot understand why. I always try to look back at our history, even though now we don't teach history, but it is very, very important we come back to history. I always try to compare what is taking place in the Northeast and what took place when we fought the Civil War. When we fought the Civil War, we finished the entire Civil War in 30 months. And with a harsher environment in a rainforest, where you can't even see where I'm sitting down, between me and you cannot even see. And here we are in a semi-desert or desert, fighting untrained militants for 9 years. I want to know why. I really want to know why. And I cannot know why until I'm inside. I want you also to remember when we were in office, between 2001 2002, such thing tried to come up in Yobe State, and we immediately crushed it. I really want to know why. Have we been fighting a group of untrained young men for 9 years, a whole powerful Nigeria? It is difficult for me to say, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. Until I go inside, I find out what is happening. Why are we finding ourselves in this kind of situation? But it is a situation that is completely unacceptable to me. And that does not even make sense. It doesn't. Look at the huge Nigerian armed forces, very well trained, with all the equipment we can afford to buy. And then look at these young boys, untrained with AK-47. 9 years we cannot subdue them. Why? I don't think there is anybody who can give you, an answer to that until you get in there and you see for yourself what is happening. Something must be happening.
Okay, Your Excellency, though you've already talked about the women, and you and I know, sir, that affirmative action in Nigeria is a major issue. And politically, the PDP delegates are wondering, what will it look like? That they bring you to power, and what will be their fate?
Well, I can promise them as, as a candidate that I have always, supported, the growth of women. There is no doubt about that. And I have stated, because people think that, the only way you can look after youth or women is if you give them percentage of, positions in government. Believe me, as far as I'm concerned, I would like to see less government in our lives. By the time I leave office, I want to be able to create, a situation whereby if they ask you to come and be president, you say, what is there for me? Believe me. My ideas are so revolutionary. And I want to reduce to the barest minimum the involvement of government. And how do I do that? You empower the private sector in the economy and other sectors of our life. And by the time you do that, you find that, all the headache that you confront as a president or as a governor, you find that they are relatively lessened. So my view is that we should have less government in our lives. I know as a developing country, government has to, create, a lot of policies and so on and so forth. But it is something that is doable. I was asking somebody today who came to present a paper to me on oil and gas. I said, the United States, pumps more oil than Nigeria. Do you hear them having a Ministry of Petroleum Resources? What is that supposed to mean? He said, what do you mean? I said, if I have my way, I will just hand over the entire thing, to the private sector, and I will get more money than what the government is getting now. It's business. Please, why can't you not run this country like a businessman? I said we have been exporting crude oil for 60 years. And the byproducts in a barrel of crude oil, you can make more money with the byproducts than the crude itself. If you cannot do it, since we have failed to get our refineries to work and produce, the byproducts, why can't you not, privatize and allow people who can produce this well for us to produce the well for us? But because people are not interested in the welfare of the citizens, they are only interested in their own welfare. They don't want these innovative policies implemented.
Thank you very much, gentlemen of the press.
I actually wanted to ask just a brief one. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, assuming you have opportunity of meeting all the aspirants, what will you tell them?
You see, I have met them individually. If it is necessary we meet as a group, I don't have any problem. But I think the most important thing is that what can they contribute in this process? And then when they contribute, what do they expect? Their expectations. So I think that is what, if you are going to talk as a group, that is how I believe you are going to approach the issue. What are they going to bring on the table? And if we succeed, what do they expect? And you try to meet their expectations and so on and so forth.
Very good.
Your Excellency, you contested for the presidential ticket under the AC in 2007, PDP in 2011, and you declared your intention under the PDP, then joined the APC alliance in 2014. Now, how do you intend to convince the delegates who probably believe that you have not been consistent on a political platform?
Tell me one political leader who has been consistent. All of them. No politician, none of them that has not changed party. But changing party is not the issue. Have you been consistent on what you believe in your policies? I think that's the most important thing. But changing political is part of our political development process.
All right. Thank you very much. Gentlemen of the press, His Excellency, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, as well as aspirant of the People's Democratic Party. This presidential nomination media chat, we've had incisive, frank, and also revolutionary responses. Round of applause. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. Please stay with us.
Now that the economy is coming out of recession, there's talk of oil going back up, though you disagree with
I think we need to look at diversification of the economy. Well, what I believe should be done in the area of diversification, take the case of agriculture, which this government says it is promoting to diversify the economy. Subsistence agriculture alone is not going to take us out of this. I think we need to learn from South Africa. We must commercialize our agriculture. If we don't commercialize our agriculture, we will not be even able to produce enough to feed or even to export. So development of agriculture should be looked at not only on the peasant or subsistence level as it is being done now. That's the only thing that is being done now. And then versus also commercial agriculture. The two have to go hand in hand for agricultural development actually to create a meaningful impact as far as the economy is concerned.
Welcome back to PDP Presidential Nomination Media Chat with His Excellency, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who is vying for his party's presidential ticket. And we are last lap, how time flies when you're having a great discussion. I want to thank all my colleagues who have done very well. Salamatu, thank you very much. Dixon, thank you also for coming for the discussion. Lee, Ashafa, Hamza, thank you very much for your great candid questions. Maybe one of these days we put you journalists on the hot seat. I know how it feels too. All right, a round of applause for everyone. All right, this event, this discussion, we've had supporters of His Excellency Atiku Abubakar together with delegates, many of them in the hall, and they will have to say, rather want to say something to His Excellency.
Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my names are Architect Suleiman Mohammed, the PDP North Central Zonal Policy Secretary. Ours today is to commend and appreciate His Excellency and wants to assure His Excellency and good Nigerians that on the 6th and 7th in Port Harcourt, PDP will make you its standard flag bearer.
Thank you.
Having been convinced beyond any reasonable doubt, your antecedent, your performance speaks volume. We don't need to be repeating ourselves. But then I have one simple fundamental question that has to do with my person being an FCT indigene. Your Excellency, God's willing, come 2019, by inshallah, you will be the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There is this constitutional issue. Is it constitutional or political? That has to do with the political structure of FCT. An FCT indigene cannot be a minister. In this Nigerian arrangement, how do you intend to address this fundamental and constitutional error? Thank you.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, there is no law that says an indigene of FCT cannot be an FCT minister. It's not correct. Secondly, in 1994-95, when I served in the Constitutional Assembly to craft the present constitution, what we made provision for FCT was a mayor of FCT. But then when it was being reviewed, they dropped the mayoral provision we recommended. and substituted it with all these area councils or whatever. So as far as I am concerned, it is an error that can be corrected. And we can correct it. And there is absolutely no law. It's simply that since, you know, the capital moved to Abuja, successive governments have been appointing people from outside Abuja to be FCT ministers, but there is no law that stops you from appointing an FCT minister from or an indigene of Abuja. But he should be a resident of Abuja, because we currently have a constitutional amendment going on, which will, if we want to build a nation, we must remove this indigene and make residency as the most important. So, any resident of Abuja, you know, could be elected, you know, a mayor of Abuja.
All right. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and thank you very much, everyone. This brings to an end the PDP nomination presidential media chat with Atiku Abubakar, who is vying for his party's ticket. Thank you very much. A round of applause for everyone who's been, you've all been wonderful. And of course, remember in closing, our problems are man-made and can be solved by man.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching the Atiku PDP Presidential Media Chat. Brought to you by the United Nigeria Group.